Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll be talking about the architect of the Capitol of the United States. Please remember to like and subscribe. Now let's get right into it. Fact 1. Since 1793. The architect of the Capitol, or AOC for short, didn't start the same time the United States was formed. In fact, it started way later in 1793 when George Washington requested that a new capital to be built in Washington, D.C. as the new capital of the United States. Before that, the capital of the United States was in New York City and Philadelphia. This agency and the person tasked to be in charge of it was really created to manage and create and maintain the Capitol buildings of the United States in Washington, D.C. Fact 2. 10-year term. The head of the AOC is also called the architect of the Capitol, which we'll get into in the next sections. And this person is appointed by the president for a 10-year term. Prior to the limit of a 10-year term, this position was actually held indefinitely. Kind of like the Supreme Court justices, where they can serve for life, if the president chooses to let them. The only difference between the architect of the Capitol and the Supreme Justice prior to the change of the 10-year term is that the president can dismiss the architect of the Capitol at any given time. This means that a Republican president can dismiss a Democrat president appointed architect and vice versa. And so this position is not as secure or as stable as the Supreme Court justices, but at the same time it is still a very long term. Great, let's get into the next fact. Head and agency. In the previous section I mentioned this, and we'll get into it now, is that the agency and also the person in charge of this architect of the Capitol has the same exact name. It is pretty wild when I discovered this fact, because if you think about it, for example, the CIA, the head of the CIA is not called CIA, it's called Director of Central Intelligence, right? Or the FBI. They have a name, the director, or in the US government, the president, right? Or in the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, if you will. The architect of the Capitol is an interesting agency that the name of the agency and the person in charge of the agency are both called the architect of the Capitol. I think they may have ran out of names for the agency because architect of the Capitol really sounds more like an individual than an agency. And as such, it's usually reflected to the leader who's leading the agency. I think in the future, they should think about a new name for the architect of the Capitol agency as the group that is in charge of maintaining and coordinating all operations around the Capitol complex buildings. This way, the people will not be confused between the agency or the head of the agency. Great, let's get to the next fact. Fact 4, the entire complex. The agency named Architect of the Capitol is a little bit misleading because it makes people think that it's only responsible for the major Capitol building that you see in this picture, which is the most famous one. In fact, the architect of the Capitol is responsible for the entire Capitol complex. The entire Capitol complex includes, of course, the Capitol itself, also 8 congressional office buildings, Library of Congress buildings, the United States Supreme Court building, the Federal Judiciary Building, Capitol Power Plant, and the Capitol Police Headquarters. There's even a United States Botanical Garden that the architect of the Capitol is responsible for. The Capitol Power Plant is another unique, interesting one in that it is a fossil fuel power plant designed to supply power to the Capitol complex. The power plant is the only fossil fuel burning facility in the Washington, D.C. area. The power plant, due to emissions is transitioned to natural gas so that more clean energy could be produced. So you can imagine the architect of capital isn't just composed of individuals who design and maintain buildings. They also need power plant operators. Great, let's get into the next and final fact. The United States Capitol Police. As I mentioned in the previous section, the Capitol complex includes the headquarters of the United States Capitol Police. This police force is designed to only protect and defend the Capitol complex. The Capitol Police is the only law enforcement agency appointed by the federal government legislative branch. It answers to the Capitol Police Board, and the primary function, as I mentioned, is to protect everything within the Capitol complex. They're also in charge of protecting the members of the Congress who are inside the complex as well. The Capitol Police is a full-fledged service that includes various units such as mountain bike units, motorcycle units, civil disturbance units, as well as intelligence, criminal investigation, and threat detection units. The Capitol Police made headlines in January of 2021 when there was a riot and a whole lot of people broke through the barriers to try to enter the Capitol unlawfully. This was the most famous, I think, use of the Capitol Police to defend the Capitol building. As a result of this riot or attack, the Capitol Police budget increased by $100 million because the Congress members themselves want to make sure that they're well protected against any future incursions. And they control the budget anyway. Great, that's it for my video today. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.